good? I think we're at time. Good on time? Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2018 State of Baseball press conference. So I will introduce everyone and then pass it to Anthony for a brief opening statement, and then we'll just get into questions. I think Ray will have a couple opening remarks also. So, and I'll introduce everyone in no particular order. We have Craig Kylitz, the Executive Director of the American Baseball Coaches Association. Kevin Lennon, our Vice President of Division I at the NCAA. Ray Tanner, the Chair of the D1 Baseball Committee and Director of Athletics at University of South Carolina. And Anthony Holman, our new Managing Director of Championships Operations and Playing Rules at the NCAA National Office. So that's Anthony. We can get started.
Thanks, Chris. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. This is my first time in this position. I'm certainly excited about the opportunity. I'm surrounded by a great wealth of knowledge here on the dais, but as well as our team here led by Randy Bohr, who will continue to manage our day-to-day operations. We're got an experienced committee that's in place. The folks here at CWS Inc. do a tremendous job. We're in our 69th year, obviously, of having the championship here in Omaha. So that success is evident by their experiences that they've had here. Had a chance to visit with the Pope himself, Denny Pope. He and I had breakfast last Friday before coming out and spent a couple hours together. And a couple of things that Denny left me with that will guide me in this role is take care of the field, because if we can't play the game, there's the experience is lost. Nurture the relationships that we have here in the community with the City of Omaha, CWS Inc., our relationship with ABCA and Craig and his dad Dave before that, making sure that the experience of the student athletes continues to be first and foremost in whatever we do, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try new things, and that's certainly not lost on me. So those are the types of things you can expect from me. I'll be listening and learning, quite honestly, during the championship here and probably throughout my tenure. But I'll ask a lot of questions. So you guys may be asking questions of me, but I'll be asking questions of a number of folks as well, because if we stop asking questions, and then we can't figure out how to make things better, and that's certainly something that I'm excited about doing. So look forward to being with you this afternoon and answering any questions that I can. Certainly bear with me that I'm 4 weeks into this position, so I may not have all the answers. So I'm grateful to be bookend with a lot of knowledge here. So thanks. I'll turn it to our committee chair, Ray Tanner, now for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Anthony. I'd like to start by just taking a moment to say thank you for your passion about this great game and your coverage. It hasn't been that many years ago that college baseball was fortunate to get a score in the newspaper the next morning or mentioned on the 11 o'clock news, and we've come a long way. And certainly presidents, athletic directors' commitment across the country is important, but what you do is important for us. You help brand our sport, and you've done it in a really big way. So I want to say thank you for helping us grow a game that is very special to us, that is not lost on coaches and players or anybody else involved in college athletics. So thank you for what you do. This is a great field, once again, in Omaha. It's hard to get here. Having been on both sides of this thing, you look at the regionals, 8 hosts were unable to get out of the field. 6 of the 8 supers went to 3 games. It's just so competitive, and that's the beauty of this sport. 297 teams started out. We're down to 8, and anybody can beat anybody, and it's great to be on your side and our side to be able to watch it. It's not that much fun being in the 9th inning trying to get 3 outs. I've been there too. But thank you for what you do. You do mean so much to us, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
All right, so we will just move into Q&A, and just a reminder to please state your name and publication or website. Okay.
Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball. This is for Craig and Ray. Craig, you were kind of talking about beforehand, before the presser, about the SEC putting forth the legislation to add the third full-time assistant. Kind of your thoughts on just the process there, your thinking on that, and also Ray as a SEC AD and former, obviously, head coach, your thoughts on that as well.
Well, if I could start out, we're excited about that. We think it's much needed and certainly can help our game. But with 35 student athletes on each team and having just 2 full-time assistants and 1 head coach, it's needed. And I think you did mention that is in collaboration with softball, which I think is going to be a great move on our part. And we did a survey a few years back asking our coaches what their position is, and 88% of our coaches are in favor of adding this position. And quite a few of them will not get the opportunity to get a full-time assistant coach because their school may not fund it, but they still think it's very important that we get the position, and they're willing to add the position even though it could put them at a little bit of a coaching disadvantage. I think it's that important for our game, but I think we owe it to our kids to have that extra position.
Yeah, I would say that, Craig mentioned the number 35, and when fall practice starts, it typically is a lot more than 35. So I think you need an extra coach. I think it's very important for our game. It's a student-athlete experience. If you go back in time, when I started, I was a graduate assistant, and the head coach had 2 graduate assistants. She didn't even have full-time coaches. So we developed coaches with graduate assistants. We lost that. We lost that to a great extent, and to take that volunteer position and turn it into a full-time position where they can recruit and just be another coach, I think it gives us an opportunity to go back and help us develop more coaches that take the place of the guys that are leaving the game. So I think it's a good thing, and I hope that it'll become reality next year.
If I could add to that as well, we're really appreciative of Ray's willingness to lead and talking to the SEC and really talking about how important things like this are for baseball. So appreciate that for getting that done.
Thank you.
Aaron Fitt, dwinbaseball.com. Looking at the scoring, I guess, being up a little bit this year, which it seems like we've kind of restored balance to the game. Are you guys happy with where we are from an equipment standpoint? Have there been any concerns about tampering, or is that issue under control, do you think?
Go ahead, Ray. I believe in people. I don't think there's tampering. I think the ball might be a little bit the change might have helped the offense. Again, you have to look at the entire season. You got to look at weather. You get different parts of the country. New ballparks, not quite as big. Fastballs are better than they used to be. It also travels farther. So I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I think there is pretty good balance in the game, and you have an opportunity to come back from 5 or 6 runs down that maybe didn't exist a few years ago. Now your team has to stop the other guy, but there's an opportunity maybe to hit a 3-run homer and a 2-run job to get back in it. So I don't know. I think that we're in a good place, but we got to continue to monitor it and stay there. We went from the 21-14 to 3 home runs in Omaha one year. So there's got to be a happy medium there somewhere.
I couldn't feel any more strongly about this. The integrity in baseball, it might be a little bit different than some of the other sports. Is it perfect? Certainly not. But I'm not hearing a lot of that. And a lot of times we'll hear from coaches around the country talking about some problems. But right now, I think baseball is in its best position. We've been in a long time with the runs and the defense and the way the game's being played. And I think a lot of that has to do with the flat seam baseball and the development of the bat and so forth. But I think we're in a real good spot right now.
Thank you. There's a question back there. Thank you.
Lou Pavlovich, Collegiate Baseball. This is for Anthony because nobody's asking you questions yet, and you need to have one.
I'm okay, Lou. Thanks, though.
Now, it's interesting to me. You've got a great basketball background. You're a great player in college. You work for, I think, the Sacramento Kings. And I'm curious how you can bring what you learned in basketball to baseball as far as the time differential. Basketball is a great game where it's usually about 2 hours. And in baseball, we had the second longest College World Series average game time last year in history, 3 hours and 25 minutes. What can you bring from basketball to help that?
Wow, that's a good question, Lou. So yeah, I do have some basketball experience. I was a student athlete, a basketball student athlete, but I cut my teeth in baseball, Lou. My first jobs in professional sports were working in minor league baseball and minor league hockey. I ran the high school baseball championship in Illinois for 9 years, and served on the National Federation of High School Associations Baseball Rules Committee, and been connected with USA Baseball. So I feel like I'm not a baseball guy in the terms of these guys, but certainly I'm familiar with the sport. In terms of how I think there are a lot of transferable things across sports that we can use to enhance the experience for fans, and the game length of times is something that we have to pay attention to. I coach my son's 12-year-old team, and their attention span is not great. They want to get back to some digital things and probably move on. So I think what has happened in basketball is they found the good balance between entertainment and performance, and I think that's something we certainly want to do without disrupting the integrity of the game of the sport. Finding ways with the help of the coaches associations and other groups that find ways to find that balance between making sure that we're not affecting the outcome of the game, but making sure that we entertain and bring new fans and the next generation of baseball fans to the game. So that's certainly something, Lou, I'll be digging into for sure. I don't know if that's I think our officials have done a good job as well about keeping guys in the box. I think our broadcast partners have been responsive to us. If you'll notice, during this year, our commercial breaks will be a standard 150. All of those things are conscious efforts to maintain some entertainment value and move the game along. So.
Howard Board and KOTK Omaha. First of all, for Anthony, welcome to the family here, and I know you'll do a terrific job with everybody else on a team effort. This question would be for all of you. The thoughts of, you mentioned, Ray, 297 teams, which is amazing. Thoughts on the growth of the sport. It seems to be popular more and more. With that in mind, how difficult is it to select 64 now, which is great? We hear on the news there are bubble teams in college baseball, which we knew about for a long time, but now it's finally getting out. Do you foresee a time when maybe we would expand the tournament just a little bit? I don't know if it would be some play-in games like the 68 or 72. Could that happen at some point? Would you be open-minded in that? That's the first question I would have. And then the second one would be, would there ever be any consideration of reseeding teams after the Supers to this platform?
I thought this was for Ray, but adding teams, it's always nice to add more teams. Now, can we make it equitable? How do we break it down? How do we pick those teams and so forth? So I think that is something that that the committee would have to look at. But right now, our selection process is about as good as it's ever been. I think we're getting the right teams here, and I think we got the right number. As far as reseeding the teams, I don't know if that was something we'd like to get interested in, but I know there's always talk about that.
Well, it's not unprecedented. It would be here, but it's not unprecedented for NCAA. We have some other divisional sports that do that. I think we did in D2 basketball this year. I think the challenge you have there now is when you do that, are you looking at their entire body of work for the entire season, or are you looking at that from the regional through their super competition, and how do you balance that? I think that becomes a little different. It's selections, everybody. We're looking at every game that they've played. When you narrow that framework, I think that changes the perspective a little bit. And then I think there's a little bit to the Hoosier effect. Everybody's in there, and you play your way through, and then you gotta win. You gotta beat some folks to win the championship. And I don't know if. And I guess I'm a little bit of a baseball traditionalist. I would say that you got to line up and play the people that are in front of you. So I don't know but certainly it's not unheard of. But I don't think we've had any discussions about that to this point.
I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of opinions at times, but I like our 64-team field. I like the regionals, the super regionals, and what it takes to get here. Being in the committee room for the last 3 years, it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because you don't want to leave anybody out. You certainly want to give teams that have a deserving resume the utmost attention. And we did time and time again, and you probably don't understand the voting process, but it's very thorough and it's long. And you know, I've been on the side where you get left out, and being in the room, that it's tough. But our metrics are great. The commitment from the NCAA, the technology that we have, we do our very best. And you know, having been on the committee for 3 years, I always go back home after the World Series and think about 2 or 3 teams that didn't get to play. And because I have lived on that side, it does strike you a little bit. But I think we've got a good format, and it's not perfect, and you know, maybe some things get tweaked. I'm a purist, but I don't think 4-hour baseball is the answer. You know, I think we go back to Lou's question. If we could play, it's okay to have a pitcher's duel for 2:12 or 2:15, but if we played 2:30, 2:40, interviewed the outstanding player and the coach, and you're out in a 3-hour window, it's pretty good television, I think. So we'll see where it all goes.
Teddy Cahill, Baseball America. So this year, again, the draft and regionals overlapped, and during the draft broadcast, Rob Manfred said that was something that they were working with you guys to address. So I just wondered, where is that process, and where would you guys like it to go?
Do you mind if I take
Yeah,
that
please.
one? We've had the opportunity to meet with Ron Manfred on this. He's willing to work with college baseball to make it the best for our sport. With that said, they have a window of Monday and Thursdays that they need to clear, because that's when major league teams typically have their day off and traveling day and so forth. So he either needs to have it on a Monday or a Thursday. With that said, there's a good opportunity that they could have it on a Thursday and run through our super regional. That is the best date according to our coaches, and we've talked with them at great length, because they need to find out what their team's going to look like. So having it after the World Series, if it's in July, you don't know what your team looks like for high school drafted kids or your sophomores or juniors that are draft eligible that go, and what your team's going to look like. So the earliest opportunity is best for the majority of the teams. This year we had a situation where a couple teams are playing while their kids are getting drafted, and that's unfortunate. But it affected just a few kids rather than all of the teams around the country. So I think it's the best date for us right now based on the majority of the teams.
I guess the only thing that I might add to that is, obviously, and Anthony can certainly chime in, from an NSA perspective, we want to continue to make sure that we're providing the focus on the collegiate model and what is so distinct and unique about the event that draws so many people here. And as we've talked about, the growth in college baseball, and so we want to do nothing that would take away from that. We also want to do the things that we can that best support our student athletes, and Craig just talked about some of the dynamics that are at play anytime you reintroduce draft issues into the environment that we have here. But can certainly share with you that this continues to be a topic of conversation, and we obviously want to do, first and foremost, what's in the best interest of college baseball, the collegiate model, and our student athletes.
JJ Cooper, Baseball America. This is for all of you. As Craig mentioned, the pace, the game, the scoring, and all seems to be at a good point. But obviously, you're always trying to improve the game. What are the areas that, as you look at it right now for the college baseball game, that are the areas for room for the biggest improvement kind of going forward, or things to be done to make it even better going forward?
Just going back to pace of play, I think that's our trouble spot right now. We need to improve in that area, and I think everyone understands that, our student athletes, our coaches, and certainly our fans. With that said, we have a survey that's going out next week to all of our Division I coaches about pace of play. We've been fortunate to be able to work closely with the NCAA on that, and they're asking for our help to get that survey back. Talking about a lot of the things that the major leagues are looking at right now. So we had the Big 12 conference put in the pitch clock this year, which is an experimental rule, and that seemed to have gone very well. We had two conferences, the SEC and the ACC, that used an experimental headset between the pitching coach and the catcher communicating. And then we also have rules such as the automatic walk or the third to first pickoff move. And then some of the other things we may take a look at, and we're asking coaches' opinions on, would be the number of mound visits by infielders or catchers. And so those are some things, and we just need to see the way the coaches feel on that. And if we have a good majority on any of those, we'll probably be likely to move forward with those with the help of the NCAA playing committee.
I would just add to that, again, there's a lot of discussions to be had, but, you know, the no-huddle offense, let's play. Let's keep the game moving. We don't want to take out the purity of the game and a little cat and mouse that goes on between managers or guy up in the bullpen or a guy on deck. We got to leave that part in the game, but we got to keep playing. We got to keep the game moving, whether it's staying in the box or you're putting a limit on a coaching visit to the mound or all the players. We really got to sit down and got to tweak it. We've got to have more action, and the game's going to be the same. And when we use the clock in the SEC, whatever it was 3 or 4 years ago, the clock was hardly ever in play, but the guys knew that they had to keep moving. So our time of length of game was better. So I think there's some work to be done, but we can get there.
The other part of that you touched about in terms of changes, an expansion of reviewable plays potentially in terms of replay. But again, there has to be a balance. In the one sense, we're talking about pace of play, and then if you add additional replay options, what's the balance and what's that look like? But certainly, that's a part of the discussion when you ask the question about what things you're looking to do to improve the game.
Aaron Fitt again. I got a couple of follow-up questions to those last couple of things. First of all, the draft. I know Major League Baseball has maybe expressed some interest in having it in Omaha before the College World Series. Is that something that's still a non-starter for you guys, or do you see the upside of potentially growing the game by having it here before the World Series? And secondly, as far as replay is concerned, you know, you've got it in super regionals. Seems like it's a similar setup with all the games on TV. Has there been any talk of having the same procedure where you've got a central command center reviewing the plays for the regional round?
I'll take the second part and ask Kevin to help me on the first one. So the replay part of it, yes. So there'll be a part of the discussions, the rules committee discussion this summer for sure about the expansion of replay moving to the regional levels as well. But it's not as simple as that. There's a cost. Are the regional sites set up for it? We had some overlap this year, which was fortunate, where regional sites were also super sectional. So in those cases, super regional, sites. So yes, the discussion is ongoing. Kind of what the timeline for that is, I wouldn't want to speculate, but certainly will be explored, and I could anticipate there could be some movement there. In terms of having the draft here, I just want to say that again, new to this role, but we've had some great initial discussions with MLB and Commissioner Manfred's office and a number of his folks. And I think I'll share with you that there are things that will be coming out of that are going to be very positive. So I'm hoping that collaboration and that relationship helps us to then better define what that looks like. Does it make sense for the draft to be here? Craig made a great point about the timing for them isn't ideal. Well, it's not ideal for us to have kids on the phone in the dugout kind of celebrating that their draft status during our games either. But you know, where's the balance for that? And if we can get to a better place where that works for everyone, we absolutely are open to it. So I don't know if I would say it's a non-starter. It's tough for us because we've got to have some delineation.
JJ of Baseball American. Ray, just kind of following up, you mentioned about pace of play and the keeping the action going. In your time in the game, you know, what do you see as kind of, the game has slowed down over the last, 15, 20 years. You've been involved in this a long time. What do you see as kind of the reasons that the pace has slowed down?
Can I get in trouble here probably? I think coaches are a little bit too involved, and I'll be probably unfair to the pitching side of it, but I think it slowed the game down a lot. You know, we experimented with the headsets this year in the SEC and with communication, but that slows the game a lot. I I did an informal survey many years ago about, I kind of took this from Coach Burtman. He always talked about height and awareness, and when you can get your team on and off the field, you play better defense. Your pitchers get the ball. They're back on the rubber after it hits the catcher's mitt. They don't walk halfway to the plate to receive the ball. They start backing up. You know, they get a little momentum going, and the only thing that can stop that is the umpire and the hitter. And I think we've, you know, coaches work hard. There's people committed in this game like never before, and it's not fair to criticize them, but I think it's just their intensity and involvement in the game. And it probably has taken an effect that it slows it down a little bit, the strategic part. You go out and discuss it. You set up your defense. You got your, you know, how you're going to pitch the next guy. And we're taking a little bit too long, I think. Not just blaming the pitchers, but we got to stay in the box. We got to get on and off the field. Television is great. We need television. So that's, you know, that to me is not part of the equation. We got to do a better job between the lines.
Right, and then we have time for maybe two more. Right, there you go.
Craig Way, Longhorn IMG Radio Network. Ray and Anthony, I think primarily for you, but Craig, you could jump in on this as well. One thing I've noticed during the course of the year, the differences between, say, conferences on how they are looking at some of these things. For example, SEC and Big 12, difference even in the pitch clock, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, things like that, the earpiece for the SEC. Is there thoughts about looking toward more uniformity for those kinds of things, much like how the three-point line went in college basketball for years before it settled in at 19.9?
So I'll start there. Absolutely, and we want that to cascade down from the national office and the rules committees. But we serve at the pleasure of the membership, and it's incredibly important for the Big 12 and the SEC to do those types of experimental things for us, and then share and collaborate with that information. I think that'll be a part of the next step. You know, now that we've done that, what's this looks like, you know, in terms of the timing here, and share that stuff with our rules committee. But absolutely, it only works if there's consistency, right? Otherwise, you get into the postseason, and you know it may not seem or look fair to everyone.
I would agree, and I think that we're all working. We all care. The coaches care. The fans. Everybody cares about the length of the game, and sometimes, you know, we say, hey, this was a little bit too long, but let's not mistake the fact that we really have a great product. But I think we can improve upon it, and you know, the more action, the more often, I think, is better in any sport. And I think we do need to collaborate and get on the same page and try to improve what our great game is all about.
Hey, Lou, question for you. Would you share with the group about the article that you told me about, and the study of about baseball and how much actual game time was performed when game was in play?
Wall Street Journal did a story back in 2013. They wanted to find out what is the actual game action time in a baseball game in Major League Baseball, and it's 17 minutes and 58 seconds. And so what is happening with the other amount of time? They actually broke it all down, what all the rest of that 90% of the time is, and maybe that's something the statistics department can figure out for baseball. I don't know, but it's fascinating, though.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Sorry, Chris.
We got to have a little bit of marketing, Lou. We got to add a little bit of time. Do a few commercials.
It's probably most appropriate to end on that note. Is there any final questions? We have time for one more. Okay, looks like we're all set. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Kendall, nice to meet you. Yeah, pleasure. Yeah, I know. Aaron, pleasure to meet you.